Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's your next installment from the Republic Room, and I'm here with Jester. How you doing, Jester?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you.
Ooh, Mason, how are you?
Perfect, thank you.
Hello, that's even better.
All right. I want to be perfect.
I want to be
Hey.
perfect too. I'm jealous.
So we did an initial introduction, and we kind of dibbled and dabbled in the whole citizenship arena. So, where do you want to take us from there, Jester?
I think I'd like to dibble and dabble too, but that's another story. Okay, well, I think our whole scenario here is to continue on with kind of what we started, to be honest with you. Just a little more detail and taking it into probably a little more, what I would say, personal viewpoint. Um, so continue with the discussion on the citizenship we started last time. Um, if people didn't listen to that, then it might, it's probably still going to make sense, but it's probably not going to be as easy. So if you didn't listen to the first call, you probably ought to. Wouldn't you say, Mason?
Yes.
Okay, short and sweet. So anyway,
Yeah, I
that's
definitely,
where we're coming from. So it is what it is.
yeah, I definitely think that if you're going to follow along and get the whole understanding, you really should watch each installment and wait around with bated breath for the next installment.
That's a
So
good point because these things
with all of
build on
that,
each other, and they build on each other. And in reality, if you don't catch the first part, you're probably not going to have much of a clue on what we're talking on down the road to a certain extent because it builds, right, Mason? I mean, you got to know where the start is before you can
Yep.
get to the end. I don't know. I don't know how somebody jump in the middle of this thing and get anything out of it. To be honest with you.
Well, I can pick it up with a simple comment. This discussion is about everybody on this call and more, or this is about your life. This isn't some halfway measure of things you need to look at or understand or read or all that stuff. It's about who you are. And most people don't know who they are, so this little chat is about getting you to a beginning point where you understand that who your family is and who you are in that family. And there's some
That's a
very
good point.
important things that address this, and it's got to do with all the things in your life that you're being taxed, regulated, licensed. Um, Everything about you is got some kind of a fictitious control point that I don't care whether you like it or not has become part of our system. And that's what's getting ready to change. And I'm not going to get into that detail just at this point, but what I'm trying to do is to give the people on this call an understanding about things are not as usual, and things are not going to continue as usual. There's going to be opportunities now for people to start living a life of, and I'm not going to say leisure because life isn't about lazy. Life is about work. And if you don't have any inclination about gardening or about any kind of construction or building or how to go about making your life more pleasurable and be busy in it, then you're just going to be in the same place you were. You might as well let somebody else tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do it, and how much it's going to cost you. That's not what this call is about. This call is about getting responsible. It's about getting onto a track where you begin to understand who you truly are in life. Now, you're giving an opportunity at this time in history to do just that because our Constitution was created by people who were tired of being told what to do and how much they could do and how much it was going to cost them to do it. And they got tired of it. So here we are, the whole bunch of us. At some point, we've evolved out of that whole thing, and we're coming back into a place now where everybody's going to have the opportunity to do all the things that the king does in England. But you're not going to be lazy about it. You're going to have to do things and get involved with your neighbors and your friends and your people and start building a community that is no longer dependent upon some outside source. We've got all of these commercial things that feed you. They send you your water. They take your toilet paper away. They do all this stuff. Well, that's not what this is about. We're moving into a totally, completely responsible era for all of us, and we're all going to grow as a result of it. And it's going to be an amazing adventure. So if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of all the details about this thing, the first thing you need to learn is, like I said, who you are in the system. And if you're going to continue to accept all the benefits and listen to your superiors, who aren't your superiors, and do what they tell you, then you're still in the soup. So you're not a taxpayer. That's a given. But you don't know that yet because you don't have any relationship between you and the sovereignty that you got acquired with the forefathers when they fought that revolution. And that's how this whole thing began. So once you begin to understand what your true rights are and your powers are, that's the key. Your power of sovereignty is over you in your private life. Your private life, your private liberty, your private property. But everything you do in your life is commercial. Your nature in itself, as a creation under their identification, you are in commerce. And that's the corporate name they tag you with. Everybody carries an ID and it's all in uppercase. That's the corporate idea. So once you get your head around this private side of things, what can you do in your life privately that nobody else should have anything to say about? Just about everything, but you pay somebody and get a license from somebody to do all those things. So you're going to have the ability to be, for instance, do your own private work, however that might be. If you put a sign on the building, you're already opened the door to the commercial side. If you put a license plate that doesn't say exempt on your car, then you're still commercial. If you're carrying a state, corporate, U.S. ID, you're still corporate. If your property has deeds on the recorder, it's corporate. So all this stuff is going to be up to each of us to fix. And before we can do that, we need to know how to go about it. And in order to do that, you got to know who you are in the first place. So everything we talked about in the first call was a general warm-up to where we are right now, which is, are you a citizen of the state or a citizen of the U.S.? And if you know the difference, and you can find out very easily, there's a couple of the first naturalization acts that I sent over to Bob, and he's going to get them posted. And you're going to find out that these people that have done all this to us, that we've allowed them to do, they knew exactly where to start. And they did it with the Naturalization Act number 1. Now, Congress, what most people don't realize is they only had the power to create a uniform rule that would be exercised by the states. They were never given the power to naturalize in the federal side or the national side, as it will be learned. Because we're not a federal system. We're not a national system. We're not a federal entity. The government is federal. The people. I'm mixing this thing up here. It's a democracy and a republic, but that's the government, not the people. The people are federal. And you need to look that word up in Noah Webster's, and what it means is very simple. It's a union, and it's not a union of subjects or taxpayers. It's a league, L-E-A-G-U-E, I believe they spelled it out. And a league is a union of sovereigns. And a funny thing was today I was looking back over the Articles of Confederation, and the word prince shows up in all over that place in our original document before the Constitution was written. So we're all princes in this system. We're sovereigns. And we got to start acting like it. And the first thing we need to do is to get our states to convert who they identify us as, which is going to be our ID. And I put an example in there. It's been posted. It's the Nebraska ID is one of the examples that the states will be using to do just what we're talking about here. The second thing is there's an exempt clause in some of the states' statutes. And California is the one I know quite well. It's in their 1925 statutes. They actually created an exemption clause that wasn't voluntary. It was a mandate. And if you were a private party and you didn't apply for the exempt plates for your private vehicle, they could stop and give you a ticket. It's a misdemeanor because they had to stop you and look at something that you should have applied for, and it's free. And 1925 statutes in California has got a whole section in there, Section 412, that identifies what your rights to travel are. You'll also find that in Title 31 under definitions. That's the U.S. code, and it'll tell you exactly what a motor vehicle is, and it's not your private vehicle. It's only in commerce, affecting the public. So everything you're doing right now, including the property you own, the property taxes that you pay, and all the other stuff that goes with it, are all based on a commercial relationship between you and the system, which is not private. They look at you as a corporate entity, and that's why you're regulated. So as this call goes forward and we get deeper and deeper into the details of what I'm telling you right now, you're still going to be coming back to the first part, which is if you're not a citizen of a state, you're a U.S. subject taxpayer, you're actually a resident alien in the state, and you're technically an illegal alien. And for those that don't understand this in their government, they're actually non-registered foreign agents. And that includes the judiciary and everybody in the Congress. The whole bunch, they have no clue where they're at. So it's going to be up to us to educate them as well. And Trump's helping us. He's just trying to get a few more people on board so this thing starts to explode. Now, by the way, I just saw a video yesterday about a guy who's in Oregon. And they're complaining because the state issued a statute, or wrote a statute, and said, if you got any kind of animals, and I don't remember all the details that they used, but they said if you got animals and they live in a pen on concrete or on gravel, you can't do that. They're gonna literally eliminate the animal husbandry in Oregon based on this statute. And this guy's crying the blues. You know what I'm saying? Man, you guys need to find out about your status and your titles, your land title, because that's where all this stuff goes away. So this isn't a short trip we're talking about here. You're going to take some walks through time, back in history. You're going to bring some of the things up that are, like, I'll give you one word, allodium. You got that Noah Webster's dictionary. It's on the website. Go look up allodium, look up freeholds, look up fee simple. All these are crossover terms that all apply to one thing, the sovereignty. And that's what you are. Whether you understand it yet or not, you will as we go forward. So I don't know how much more I can give you at this particular juncture in this particular chit-chat, but I'll turn it over to Bob for a minute, and if he can juggle up anything else he wants to talk about, we'll go forward.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of details that go to back up what you're talking about. So I think that's what a lot of these people are going to be interested in, is to how we define these things and move forward the articles and all the things that we're putting in the room there with the backup of what we're trying to tell them. And I know it's one thing that things are moving the right direction here. We have a pretty good idea that that's what's under control, but I don't think this is largely what a lot of people are thinking this is going to be about. You know, a lot of these people think everybody's going to get $1 bazillion and that sort of thing. We're all going to sit back and we're not going to do anything. I think it was really huge that you said in the beginning that it's going to be a cooperative effort, and
right.
It's going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody doing their part. That's the part that I think people don't get yet. Is they think everything. I think there's a large majority of people that think this is all going to get done for them, and I don't think that's the case to a certain extent. Although it may be allowed in a larger format at some point in time, and maybe even embraced, to be honest with you. But at this point right now, go ahead.
The thing the system has lived on is our ignorance. And our ignorance is based on the fact that we don't know that the private side is completely and totally exempt from all the commercial garbage that the system has created and sucked people into. All these little private businesses, private my butt. They're all commercial. Every time you got a sign on the building or an ad in the paper, if you don't have a word of mouth system going on where you may be posting your business at the sheriff's office, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the only place it can happen, but the internet, oddly enough, is a free system for those who are private, but you have to pay to get on it. So anything you put on it is exempt from licensing because it's a paid system. The minute you pay to get on something, you automatically have access to pass information out. So I'm Joe Blow, and I shoe horses. Okay, and how many people do you shoe horses for? Well, I got about 50. Well, that's a pretty good recommendation. Do you have anybody that I could talk to? Yeah, and my phone number is posted there. That's just an example. Okay, so as we start to move further and further into the private side of this experience, you're going to find that more and more people who are in the commercial side are going to be going further and further out of business. Because you know what's going to happen?
It's going to take a minute for the thing to grow and roll.
Yeah, I know. But the system is going to start taxing. The taxes and licensing that goes on the commercial side will begin to increase on those people who don't understand the power of the private side.
Correct. Well, I mean, and here's I guess the clincher is there's ways to do it, but if you don't know, then you're ignorant of the system, and that's the whole problem with what we got going on right now, as I see it.
Well, you'll learn how. Once your pocketbook gets to the point where it's hurting really bad because you don't understand what your rights are, you might want to find out and how to go about it.
Well,
I can run a taxi cab company all day long if I know how to do it.
Well, there's other things that you know how to do that we'd all like to know how to do. I can verify that. And the question is, how much are we able to do without freaking everybody out?
As these people on this call begin to come into a little bit of money, so they can afford to do a little more time in practicing the things in life that they love to do that's on a private that may lead into a form of income. This is how this thing is going to unfold. So it isn't about the faint of heart when it comes to doing a little work. Most people are already involved in something that will help them move ahead. And if they got a little extra money to help that, well, all the better. And it'll happen that much quicker. And then the groups like what's on this group, they come together. No reason why you can't have 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people listening to a simple call. Yeah, this is how you start a bee farm. Geez, I never thought of that one. That's pretty cool. And then, I got neighbors that like honey. Maybe they don't want to do bees, but guess what? I bet you they'll want the honey.
Well, there's a starting point for sure. I think the common form of people that are interested in this to a certain extent are really interested in what we're going to do for them or what somebody's going to do for them. And that's really not what this is about.
No.
That might surprise a lot of people. And, there's things that you can do to help yourself even at this point. I'm not going to get into any detail there because, quite frankly,
don't have to.
It's going to take a minute to build this up. And I think we're getting to the point now to where we're maybe piquing some interest, and that's what I'm liking to do, and see if we can continue building upon what we are doing here. And Elephant, I don't know if you have a comment on that at all. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had one more comment. Somebody posted a website about land patents on the website with our stuff.
That was me.
Who was that?
That was me.
You posted that thing?
Where it showed 50% or better of the United States was covered by land patents.
Yeah, and then there was the web link on there.
That was me.
Okay, that's a good link. Okay, but listen, The only way that the people are going to get an idea about this land patent thing is to contact their own state lands commission in their state. And then you're going to make some connections there that'll show you about those titles. And every state in this union has been involved in it. I don't care if Texas shows it hasn't or not, that's baloney, because all of them have been. But I wanted to make one more point. As long as we're talking, that patent thing came up, let me just say one thing about it. The land patent came here from England. It wasn't part of our raw, what do they call it, the raw grassroots system that existed in this country. You know, it was pretty much held by the Indians, and they didn't need a piece of paper that said you can live here. So
right.
The principle, the principle of that is that there are a lot of land that's been claimed by a tree, stump, a rock, a stake in the ground, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so the principle of the land patent is something in writing, something that's been surveyed, something that has a authoritative signature on it. And that's what that thing was about originally, because it was the king granting title to lands, but they didn't have the allodium. So the allodium part of this thing is what's going to be the big part for people to understand. And once you get your head wrapped around it, it's not going to be hard to exercise it, because in this day and age, all you need is your wristwatch or your phone with a GPS system on it. You can walk the four corners of your property and write the latitude, longitude down in the intersecting points, and that's your description in the universe.
Right.
So it's just not going to be complicated. Most people will get the idea. Okay, have I got a land patent? Yes. But is it the key? No. It's your citizenship the key.
Yep.
We come back to that every single time.
The reason I put that website in there was because there was a question asked. It says, look like very few states acknowledge or issue allodial titles for real property. And I wanted to point out that that's not true, and that's why I put that website in there to show that more than, exactly. So more than half, and it's just clearly shown on the landpatents.com. So that's why I put that on there. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because actually that was a pretty good pick there. So
and
anyway,
the simpleness of that whole issue is that I told you in the first part, you know, we were a captured people when we came here. The group that's in that document that I sent you, the Anti-Federalist 40, it identifies them on that page. And they've been here a whole time, and they've undermined everything you can think about when it comes to your privacy. And that's what we're in the process of recovering. We've got to recover our privacy, otherwise we're sunk.
And that's doable.
Absolutely.
So, and we'll go there at some point in time on this call, and when we get there. So anyway,
okay.
What else you'd like for us to talk about tonight, the Elephant? If there's anything that on your end that you're thinking of.
I think that was a really good second installment, and I think there's some really great information. And again, if you look in the Republic room, any of the terminology that Mason mentioned, you just click that dictionary link and you can look for yourself and familiarize yourself with what those words actually mean and what it says. And I'm also going to post the Naturalization Act and all the other pertinent information that you guys can peruse at your leisure after listening to the call, or when you're re-listening to the call to get a better understanding once you can see the documents. So yeah,
I'd encourage
second installment.
Yeah, and I'd encourage the questions too. If people would engage, then we'd kind of have an idea where they like to go too. Otherwise, we're just kind of, freewheeling it here. It was nice of the lady that asked the questions, Primetime Girl, I guess it was, and Elephant said I was a little blunt, but that's kind of the way I am. So I apologize if it seems that way. I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just going to answer the question as truthfully as I can. So yeah, hopefully you guys understand that that's just my way. But please, it doesn't mean you shouldn't ask questions. I'm not going to be mean or nothing. So you know,
Yeah,
we would like to have some interaction here, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
And the
yes,
question
yeah.
sometimes
And
can
I totally.
engage.
Oh,
I was going to say the questions
go
can
ahead, Mason.
sometimes engage a whole nother topic of discussion about a particular point that
Right,
maybe we didn't touch on.
right.
You know, I'd like to detail this thing
Yeah.
right down to the word.
Well, right now, people aren't able to post in the room right now. So I'm going to get with Salty and kind of figure out some kind of timeline where we're at. But in the meantime, anyone who has questions, you feel free to at me in the living room chat. And if you're not in the living room chat, feel free to at me in the Q&A chat, or send me a DM if you have any questions, and I'll get them posted in the room. And then Mason and Jester can take a peek at it and then answer those questions for you. But as we
Can I bring up?
progress, things are going to progress in the room. I'm
I
sorry. Go
wanted to
ahead,
bring up one
Mason.
more point on. Yes, you know, Bob. I'm
Sure.
sorry,
Go ahead.
Jester. You know, we've had more than a little discussion about the frequencies that people have in them, you know, of their own personal insight. And as we go through this exercise, we might want to embellish that a little bit to give people an idea about where all the information can be derived from. And we all have access to it. It's just that most people don't know how to turn the switch. So that would be another topic at some point.
Yeah, most people don't know they can, that they have that ability actually.
Exactly.
So yeah, we'll get there. I think too. That's a topic for another discussion, which I think would be very interesting to the people here. Maybe we do that next. Let's think about that.
That's that's a good idea, and I only say that because that actually is usually the beginning topic of any kind of an educational process. If you can't teach the people how they get their own information, then they're still relying on you or something else external to find out truth, and that's not where truth actually comes from.
Well, that doesn't really help us either. I don't want to be dragging thousands of people around behind me.
That's the whole point. You don't. Uh,
All right, good deal. All right,
Well,
elephant.
I will remind I will remind you, gentlemen, that we will touch a little bit on the frequencies for our next call, which will be on Saturday. So stay tuned. We'll drop another pre-recorded call on Saturday with Mason and Jester here in the Republic Room. And until then,
And
we love you all.
just so one more thing. Sorry, but you know, there's a frequency room
That's
Salty
okay.
set up for us that's out there. It's really cool. People should check that out too.
Yeah, there is a frequency room, and I can also drop the link to that room in the Republic chat. So
That might be a
I'm
good
just
place to
making a
start
quick
right
note
there.
for
Yeah.
myself. Yeah,
Excellent.
I'll put that in the chat and get everybody that information and all of that good stuff. So we thank everyone for listening, and we hope everyone found the information valuable and that you'll stay tuned so we can go down this journey together. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right,
Okay.
you take care.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.